Jonathan, these are uncertain times on the entire Korean peninsula, but let's focus on South Korea where you are. How would you describe the political uncertainty that you're seeing there?
It's been a pretty crazy 6 months. Things seem quieter now for the moment, but we've learned that when things seem quiet, it probably means that there's another twist coming. We've seen the president basically impeached, removed, and now on the brink of facing criminal prosecution. So that removes one level of uncertainty, but then you get a whole new wave because there's an election coming up. There is that prospect of prosecution. And what that all means is that there isn't a stable government on the southern half of this peninsula at a time when the northern half is arguably more uncertain than ever.
What are the people in South Korea most worried about, do you think?
Well, right now, it depends on who you talk to. I think some are certainly concerned about what direction South Korea will take. There are some people who fear what is likely to happen, which is a government in Seoul that wants to get closer to Pyongyang. There are people who are more concerned directly about North Korea and how close they are to being able to put a nuclear-tipped long-range missile, potentially into the airspace of the U.S. or even further. And then, of course, we have concerns about Trump as well. Those are global, and those are definitely felt here on the Korean Peninsula.
When you say concerns about Trump, in what way?
Well, there was a question about what he would do exactly with North Korea. Of course, he isn't a polished politician. He doesn't have a track record of decades that point to what he might do with a threat like North Korea. So really, the whole gamut is available, and that includes him showing up in Pyongyang one day, shaking Kim Jong-un's hand and saying, "We're friends now." That's one extreme. The other is that the U.S. may conduct a military strike on North Korea. Neither of those are pleasant prospects for people here in South Korea or in Japan or in China. It's that sort of uncertainty that's really the worry.
Some people have described South Korea as being between a rock and a hard place in the sense that China is its biggest trading partner. It's an important part of its economic strength. And yet at the same time, there's the security concern with North Korea and its friend, China. Do Koreans see that as the choice between sort of economic prosperity and security?
I think they are increasingly being forced to see it that way because of what China has been doing. There is a big debate here, I should have mentioned this as well, over a battery, a U.S. anti-missile battery that South Korea is installing as we speak in South Korea. It's called THAAD for short, and it shoots down missiles that could come from North Korea. The problem is that it has a radar system that China isn't happy with because it stretches into Chinese territory. And really, I think Beijing is worried that this is step one in really enhancing U.S. missile and radar capabilities in the region. China's always been afraid of being encircled. They've got Japan and South Korea and Taiwan and India, and now the problems that they have with the South China Sea. You could argue that they're of Beijing's own making, but they do feel like they are increasingly surrounded by U.S. allies who are increasingly arming up with U.S. arms, and that's a big worry for Beijing.
What are you watching for in the immediate future now?
Well, THAAD is definitely one of them. So basically, in the wake of Park's removal, that's the president of South Korea, you have the government, the interim government, trying to install this stuff as quickly as possible, even as China retaliates against South Korea economically, taking advantage of that trade reliance. And at the same time, you have an election coming up. You have Rex Tillerson, the U.S. Secretary of State, is in town in Seoul, in fact, today. You have Trump continuing to conduct a policy review in North Korea, which could lead in any direction. And of course, there's always the prospect that Kim Jong-un could make his next move, whatever that may be, a nuclear test, a missile launch, or what we saw in Malaysia, some sort of extraterritorial killing. Who knows what they have coming up next.
Jonathan, thank you very much for this.
Of course, my pleasure.